Hello and a very warm welcome to Money Control. Today we are discussing a very contentious issue, the issue of retrospective taxation on the gaming sector. Gaming sector is one of India's sunrise sectors that has grown at a stupendous pace of 28% of compounded annual growth rate between FY20 and FY23. Projections indicate further growth to 33,243 crores by FY28 with a sustained 15% CAGR. In a nutshell, it is one of India's sunrise sectors, which has shown very promising growth. But things have not been very good, especially for the last several months. A whole host of companies were issued tax notices amounting to even twice or three times of the company's annual turnover. Well, the tax notices were about retrospective taxation. The GST Council said that the interpretation of the GST law meant that these companies will have to pay this particular tax, which was being levied on these companies retrospectively. An approximate number on the amount of retrospective tax notices that have been sent to companies is 1 trillion rupees. The retrospective taxation bit has had a damning impact on gaming companies. GST Council is expected to meet on Saturday and is expected to take up this issue. To understand the implications of a retrospective policy on an industry and whether this particular retrospective taxation on gaming companies has pressed the panic button amongst other sunrise sectors, and the fallout of this particular retrospective taxation move on the industry, to get a sense of all of that and the way forward for GST, because GST continues to be a work in progress. It's a very young tax, and clearly as India tries to make doing business in India easier, it'll have to deal with this very sensitive issue in a progressive manner. To understand the implications of this particular policy move so far, I have with me Roland, CEO of All India Gaming Federation, Mr. Badri Narayanan, Executive Partner at Lakshmikumaran and Sridharan Attorneys, and I have with me Mr. Bipin Sapra, Partner Leader of Indirect Tax at EY India. Thank you so much for joining us. So let me begin with you, Mr. Sapra. When these retrospective notices were sent out, evidently it sent out a huge ripple effect. It had a huge ripple effect in the whole gaming sector. I just want to get a sense from you on the magnitude of this retrospective taxation, the impact it has had on the gaming industry. I know EY put out a fabulous and a very detailed report on that. And if you could just start with laying the groundwork on the impact it has already had.
Thank you, Shweta. So we have covered this in detail in the report we published yesterday. And what you have to realize is that this taxation on 28% of the full value of the deposit came out somewhere around, was effective from 1st October 2023. Prior to that, the industry was following an 18% tax on the platform fees. And it was an understanding that the platform fee was a percentage of the deposit value. It could vary from company to company, game to game, from 10% to 25%, and it still varies. Now, that is the revenue which is supposed to be coming to a gaming company. What has been done is that now the tax has been imposed on 28% on the full deposit value which a player brings in. That is not supposed to be the taxable value. Hence, by bringing in that, what we are effectively doing is taxing beyond what was normally the understanding of the revenue which a company was earning. Now, that would obviously, at the face of it, appear to have a significant impact on the margins, the way the companies are working, and it has brought in a huge uncertainty in the Indian gaming industry market. And it has also, there have been impact on the margins. There have been impact on the jobs which these companies give out, and obviously how the investor community from across, from overseas and within India look at these games. There has been a perceptible change in terms of the investments coming in. So the impact has been huge, and back to you.
So we'll get into the quantification of the impact. If it has meant that gaming companies have to scale back their expansion plans, if it has led to job losses and so on. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Mr. Narayanan, I just want to get a sense from you, since you've been representing the interests of these companies in the courts. What is the basic premise of your argument? Because is this, the retrospective taxation bit, is this against the basic principle of the GST law?
Thanks, Shweta, again. And again, it's a very insightful question that you asked me. So just to kind of get a sense of when we say retrospective tax, what we're effectively saying is that there is a difference of opinion between the government and the industry as to what is the base on which tax needs to be paid. So the main thing is whether the games that are being played by the online gaming companies, and they've been taking opinion from senior advocates, from retired judges and others to say that these are games of skill, whether those are really games of skill or game of chance. So the department is effectively saying these are games of chance, and therefore there needs to be a tax which is on the face value of the ticket, just like a lottery or a casino or other kind of activities. The industry is saying that no, these are games of skill, similar to what you play and what's been accepted by the courts at different points of time. And they're saying that these are games of skill, and therefore the application is not there. So the issue really is with respect to how the interpretation of this, but it has caused a lot of issues for the companies because it brings a huge amount of uncertainty. You would see that the amount that they are really seeking to recover from these companies is to the order of 10 to 20 times the current revenue, which is going to be impossible for them to pay. And therefore, the courts are going to be involved in figuring out what is it that these games are, and are there other arguments with respect to whether this tax is sustainable from the perspective of the position that the GST law has. But having said that, it is fundamentally opposed to the GST manner of working for the reason these are value-added taxes. You pay taxes with respect to the consideration or the income that you earn from these games, not with respect to other measures which are there. So that is where the fundamental issue is with respect to these notices.
That's very interesting. That's a very interesting point that you raise, Mr. Narayanan, that the tax is supposed to be on the income. And here now we are getting into, I think, a bit of a morality issue here also, right? Game of skill versus game of chance. Are there any global examples here that India is looking at while putting these differentiators?
So we did a lot of study of international positions and regimes with respect to gaming. Generally, internationally, games are taxed based on what is earned on these games. Some countries, in addition to GST or what we call as VAT, also have gaming taxes, which are license fees, registrations, and things like that, which needs to be added. But generally, world over, what is being taxed is the amount that the gaming company earns from the games played on their platforms, which typically, like what Bipin has said, is the nature of a platform fee or some kind of a notional amount that you can take for the purpose of income that is earned from that. That's really what is the regimes which are followed across the world.
Right. And what are we doing here, Mr. Narayanan? Just break it down for our viewers. What is the government, what is the GST Council asking the gaming companies to do?
Perfect. So so there are two regimes which are in play right now. The old regime, basically, assume, for example, you went and played a game for 100 rupees. The platform companies used to charge between 10 and 20 rupees as their fee, and they used to discharge 18% tax on this 10 to 20 rupees that you used to earn. The remaining 80 to 90 rupees used to go into something called a prize pool, which used to be distributed back to the players, and no tax was ever charged with respect to that. The department now is saying that because these are games of skill, games of chance, therefore, with respect to this 80-90 rupees also, you need to pay tax. And not just that, you need to pay 28% on that. So effectively speaking, they are now charging 28 rupees on the 100 that has been put in. That's the real issue, which is more than what probably the revenue earned by the gaming company. This is what is the demand.
So for instance, if I put in 100 rupees to play a game, and if I lose that money, but I still have to pay that 28 rupees tax on it.
Yes. So the gaming companies are now saying that you kind of reverse calculate on that 100. So that comes to about 22 rupees. 28% of 100 on an inclusive basis comes to about 22 rupees. So the department is saying, you earn your platform fee 10 rupees, 20 rupees, no problem at all about it. But don't pay tax, that is 18% on the say 10 rupees, which is 1.8 rupees. But give me 22 rupees because that is the face value on which a person has come and played on this game. So that is 22 rupees is what the department is asking for the person to pay, as opposed to a 1.8 rupees or a 2.8 rupees that or 3.6 rupees, which the gaming companies used to say, saying that this is what I've earned from it, because they're not retained anything else, right? So they've got this 80 rupees as price pool and returned it back. It's never been their income with respect to that. And whatever I've earned, I'm willing to pay tax with respect to that. And these are all games of skill. That's the department's view. So this is where the anomaly is. So the department is asking them to pay a tax, which is more than what probably most of the companies have as a revenue with respect to this.
Right, absolutely. Let me bring in Roland here. Roland, you've been fighting a battle on this, and just help us understand that this issue has been going on for almost 7-8 months, or even longer, maybe. How has it played out for the gaming industry, considering this is it's an up and coming industry in the country, with just this retrospective bit? Have we taken the industry back a few years in terms of its in terms of its development, in terms of its just the way it was expanding, and then did we just put a halt to it?
Yeah, thanks, Shweta. So as Badri just mentioned, historically, games of skill were not interpreted as betting and gambling, and hence the GST was being paid on the platform fee, or what the industry calls gross gaming revenue. Now this, these notices were a digression from that way. It does not align with the previous regulations, and hence being treated as betting and gambling. Now, on the impact on the industry, obviously, as I think Badri also mentioned, clearly the notices that have been sent out, if you look at the values, it is easily in the excess of 10 times the revenues of those companies, and hence it is impossible to pay. Now, the impact on the industry is significant. Here is an industry that is not more than, I think, about 12 to 15, not more than that, 12 to 15-year-old, which has, grown significantly, especially in the last. And the growth significance, comes from the direct correlation between the Digital India initiatives and the gaming industry. As, those Digital India initiatives kicked in, brought in huge uptake in terms of internet penetration, as well as smartphone penetration, access to data, etc. The industry has grown significantly, and this is why we set out the AIGF also 8 years back, because we saw the growth potential of the sector. But this retro taxation is, and obviously, as I said, it's not an old industry, so it's a startup ecosystem. So a lot of these, there are, just for the records, there are 3 unicorns already in the industry, and the industry currently is at about close to 20,000 crore. And significant FDI also has come into the industry, especially till, if you look at just pre-October 23, for the last year, FY23. So all of these indicators, now currently as we speak, I'm sure you'll get into, the investor sentiment a little while from now, so maybe I can answer that. But currently, the impact on the gaming companies has been, on the negative side, and this entire startup ecosystem.
Can you explain to us? It's evidently it has been on the negative side. Just explain to us, break it down for us. When we say negative, what does it mean? What does it mean for the unicorns? Has it led to erosion of valuation? Has it led to job losses? Can you give us some numbers?
No, so as Badri was trying to explain, also there is also the new tax regime from October of 23, which is 28% on the initial deposit. Now we look at both these developments parallelly, and and if you look at the AIGF ecosystem, a lot of our in our presentation to the METI, we had shown that there were about 950 gaming companies. 950. Obviously, in our membership, we have close to 200, but I'm just saying that used to be the universe. And post the new tax regime, there have been, shut down, companies have shut down, there have been job losses. And it has been in the media also. I mean, a lot of the companies have retrenched people. And mainly the investor interest also. They were, as I said, the investor FDI that came into the sector was about 1.7 billion. In 21 alone, it was about 400 million US dollars. But that has significantly, gone down because investors look at stability, and retro taxation causes, uncertainty in the marketplace. So
Right.
all of these
Let me bring in. Can you hold that thought? Let me bring in Mr. Sapra here. Mr. Sapra, has this particular thing about retrospective taxation on gaming, has this had a spillover effect on other industries as well? As someone who's constantly working with clients, has this led to concerns that this could happen to somebody, to another up and coming industry that the government is playing catch up with in terms of regulations?
See, it's an interesting question, but and the government has always tried to maintain a level of certainty for most of the way how the taxation is there. While GST has is still a very young tax, and there are a lot of issues, the government's endeavor has been to not really walk in the direction of taxing retrospectively in most of the industries. Having said that, online gaming industry has been a very specific case in point, and there are a lot of nuances around what is a game of chance and what is a game of skill. And for each game, various courts have come and opined, and there have been orders, there have been appeals. So it's been a conundrum of how these games would be looked at, and whatever happens worldwide, it's a very different way how those games are looked at. There might be similar games, but the way the society looks at them in those jurisdictions is very different as to how these have evolved from the way games were looked at in the past here in India. So this is where we are. I think the law changed. I just wanted to put that out in the perspective for the viewers. The law changed very specifically effective 1st October 2023. There is no, at least I'm not aware of any ambiguity post 1st October 2023 as to what should be and how online skill-based games should be taxed. For the period prior to that, it's interpretative, and the courts would at some point of time decide. Accordingly, the government has gone out and issued protective demands for all of these. The impact has been that there has been so much of uncertainty as to how this industry should look at the past, the margins, and what all is the reality in terms of their current balance sheets. So this is the uncertainty which has been created. Haven't seen it in any other industry. And I don't think the intention of the government for any other industry has been like that.
Right. So I just want to get a sense from you and Mr. Narayanan on the now that we have this and we have a GST Council meeting on Saturday. What does this imply for the structure of GST? If the council were to reverse this, right? What is the precedent that will be set? What is the clarification that will come in, which would be implemented across sectors?
Okay, so let me just take that, and then maybe Bipin you can kind of add to that. So, a couple of things. One is there is a GST structural legislative issue, and then there is the actual decision with respect to whether they want to pursue this old notices. I don't want to call it retrospective notices. Let us say the past notices, the previous regime notices. Okay, so the industry is clear that the previous regime notices are going to be very, very tough if it is upheld by the courts, because there's never the expectation, neither of the department nor of the industry, that the tax should be on the price. So that is one big issue which is there. Now, if that has to go away to be able to bring certain amount of certainty for investor and also for the online gaming players, okay, then two things are required. One is, are there mechanisms in place in the GST law for the GST Council or the legislators or the executive to be able to withdraw or to be able to clarify or to be able to set aside these notices?
Right.
According to me, there are certain gaps in the GST law. In excise and other regimes, there used to be specific provisions which used to allow that where, for example, the entire industry is aligned in a wrong manner, okay, from the department, then benefit of doubt to be given that we will, even though we don't agree with the fact that that position was correct, they are able to issue a notification saying that we are waiving with respect to that, and then the show cause notice used to disappear with respect to the past. We don't have something like that at this point of time in that. Some people may argue that is an inherent power of the legislature to be able to do so, but GST being a regimented, rule-based, legislation-based, regulation-based law, it's better to have a clear thing. It will also allow for them to be able to issue for other industries now and in the future. There are going to be instances where there is a fundamental difference between the industry and the department. Industry falling in one way based on an interpretation, department going another way. And they want to kind of clarify that. That is one aspect that the GST Council needs to, before they can even get to the point of being able to withdraw these notices. That's one big thing I think the GST Council will have to consider and pass. The second thing is, between the states, they'll have to negotiate an agreement which basically says that for the past, we are going to drop this, or we are going to accept that the industry made a mistake, but they made a mistake collectively, and therefore we do not want to do that. That the states all have to come together with the center for the purpose of being able to do so. So I think that is something that will have to be looked at, and there will be a GST Council meeting, which probably this time or the next time, they'll have to come together for the purpose of being able to figure out whether they're going to, based on that decision, then the notification will be issued, and then the show cause notices may disappear. This is typically how the mechanism needs to be put in place for the purpose of implementing this.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Sapra also. Mr. Sapra, what's your expectation from the GST Council meeting on Saturday?
So, what Badri said, I am fully aligned with that. Though I won't use the word that they had paid it wrongly. See, most of these issues in the past also have been matter of interpretations. And matter of interpretations can go one way or the other, depending on how the courts opine. Once the courts opine in a particular way, it becomes a law of the land, and the industry may have taken a different interpretation as they have gone ahead. So if the industry has been following a particular way, and if the GST Council now empowers itself or the states through the executive through various laws to allow these to be waived off, for the past, I think it's a great thing. It's not only the online games industry which is at stake. A lot of industries have been reeling under the impact of having taken interpretations all in good faith for the past period. For the
So was there, Mr. Sapra, sorry to interrupt, was there ambiguity before these notices were sent out? Because when you speak with the GST officials, they say there was ambiguity and the companies interpreted the law in a certain way, and now we are only clarifying it, and they should have done this all along.
In the eyes of the industry, I don't think there was any ambiguity. And I'll let Roland also add to that. But so there was apparently no ambiguity, given that these are games of skill, and the courts have been holding them as games of skill, which can be played here in India.
Okay. Roland, would you like to come? Yes, please go ahead.
There is another thing which the industry is looking at. When this law was brought in the 52nd GST Council, way back in September or August or July 2023, which was going to be effective from 1st of October, there were some voices in the GST Council which were not exactly aligned, and there was a promise which was recorded that these would be reviewed. This law itself would be reviewed after 6 months. But given that no GST Council has been held because of various reasons in the past few months, and hence it was deferred that once the elections are over and the next GST Council happens, these will be taken up. So the industry is expecting that review happens either today, either happens in this meeting or maybe in the next meeting. But it is something which the industry is expecting, that it will be reviewed, and accordingly, the impact would be looked at in the right perspective.
Right. Let me go across, come to you, Roland. So it seems like that the retrospective, from whatever we are picking up right now, will be considered. But the 28% tax on the full face value of bets on the entire amount in online gaming that came into effect in October 2023, which was again was supposed to be up for a review by March 30th, that's unlikely to be discussed. So I just want to get a sense from you on this 28% tax bracket. Is it okay for the industry to be paying 28% tax? None of us like to pay high tax, I agree. But be honest in your assessment. Is the 28% tax okay with you? Because the ministry is saying that now the industry is used to this higher tax bracket. That's what they say.
Yeah, the thing is that let me just give you a perspective. While the 28% on the deposit is causing significant financial strain on the companies within the sector.
From 18% earlier, right? From 18 to 28%. Yeah.
28 on the initial deposit. The thing is that that is causing financial strain, and what is also happening is that look at what it is fueling. Now this uncertainty also fuels the offshore gambling industry, which we know is a significant takes out a significant number of business from here. Just to put some numbers in perspective, this has been reported in the media by the offshore gambling companies itself that about $12 billion annually is taken out from here, and these are companies not registered in India. And although it was mandated that they register, but none have done so far. And also, if you look at the GST impact, that's $2.5 billion lost to the exchequer. Right now, so what happens is all of these things, while there have been significant developments by several ministries to try and curb this menace, they continue to exist and come resurface under different domain names. And especially in the big ticket events like the IPL and now the World Cup. So there is this is an issue that, and we are really hopeful that, and we look to the government that, when the review happens, whether it's this meeting or the next one, to look at, the financial impact that it is causing, both in terms of the rate and the valuation, and really look at it, and we're really hopeful that, that they look at it in perspective and are able to give some relief to the industry. That is, really one of the key contributors to the startup ecosystem and the job creation also. Just FYI, there's the total GST currently that the government has put out the numbers is 1% of the total GST collected at the 28% on deposit. So we are really hopeful and look to the government for support.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Roland, and thank you very much, Mr. Sapra. Yes, you want to say something, Badri?
A couple of things. I just want to kind of add to this. So I feel that the GST Council will have to look at the portions, the regime that they have put in place post-October on two counts. One, I think they may be happier for the fact that the collection of GST has increased, but the total amount of companies, like what Roland was saying, that over time, if the companies are not able to survive, some of this may become offshore or underground, and that probably is going to have a bigger impact on the collection. So there is a short-term period of collection which may be high, but the long-term, there may be an impact. That is one thing that they need to keep in mind. The second is that during this transition, a lot of the companies, in order to ensure their customer base is retained, have also been kind of subsuming this tax. Okay, that is, instead of passing it on to the person, they have taken it upon themselves, and some of them are paying from their own pocket. Now, I feel that based on the recent discussions with the department and certain investigations that are going on, the department seems to suggest that when you subsume this tax, effectively it's an amount paid on behalf of the person, and there could be a subsequent demand for the post-October regime, which can have again a debilitating impact on the industry. Right. So I'm saying that GST Council probably will have to look at the fact that in certain circumstances, what is the ideal rate, an ideal way in which this tax should be there. Okay, I'm still a firm believer that it should be based on the income that the companies earn at a higher slab. If you want to go 28% or whatever, that's probably the better way of doing it. And the second thing is that how to ensure that when someone is taking a hit on their own, how to ensure that they are not harassed by the department on the basis that on that also you must pay tax. So those are the certain areas I feel that there could be a second round of litigation which may be brewing in the years to come in the post-October regime.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing such detailed insights. And yes, I think collectively as a country, we hope that we become an easier country to do business in, and especially for the Sunrise startup ecosystem. I think it's just very important that that laws are made simpler and there is predictability. So we have the council meeting on Saturday, and we'll have more clarity then. And of course, we'll keep tracking this story on Moneycontrol. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And a big thank you to all our viewers for tuning in. Thank you.